Well, first, my name is Marlon. I think men have been divided in so many spectrums, different ways, depending on where you've come from, like let's say your ethnicity, your background, where you're born. It sort of defines a man. But I think the middle ground of a man is what I believe is someone who just needs to step up to the plate. When you're called upon or when you're sort of approached, what do you do in that instance? Like, are you approachable? It's that essence of someone coming to you or people coming to you and being that sort of anchor in a way. So a man is, for me, is someone who is responsible, who knows his tasks, who knows who they are. And I think we'll touch on this point, but it's more about a man having that identity in themselves. If there's a physical aspect, then it changes the whole question about being a man. And there's the inward perception of a man. So it's two ways of viewing it, I'd say.
That's an interesting question. My name is Kaloki. I think being a man, from what I gather personally, it's a matter of choice. People are born male. That's just how you are born. But becoming a man fully is something that you have to choose to do. It won't happen by accident. It's something that somebody has to work at. There are multiple facets or dimensions of being a man, including physicality and spirituality and other aspects, development that eventually we call maturity, right? So I think it's important to preface this conversation by having that disclaimer, number one, that it is a spectrum, but also that you gotta choose where you're going to be in that spectrum. And I think for me personally, I would my personal desire is to be at the level where it's congruent with the original design. Okay, so when creation happened, and this can get philosophical and get complex, but there is a purpose and there is a meaning, and a man is kind of somebody who has that seed of a meaning and a purpose in them. So I think those things have to be part of who a man is. I know there are many other constructs in the society, and depending on where you grew up or which part of the world you live in, it could be confusing sometimes, but we need to distill it down to the original basics. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jones. I think a man would probably stem from, in my own view, a man would stem from a person who has morals and principles and follows through the actions, follows through with actions what he said he's going to do. But in modern society, we view men with different things. Is like, what does he have? How does he look? But having those is not bad. But I think for one to become a man, needs to break from within. So the values should complement the physique and everything else. But without the values, the physique and the material things would probably not be as useful or resourceful without the values that a man has.
I think that's a very broad subject, especially about men. And I talk as someone of a shoe bearer as a man, and it's in different facets, because I've seen men who've cried, I've seen men who have been strong at times when they are called for, I've seen men who are in the closet but not showing the emotions. The tough cookie, you're trying to say, you're that person, like someone is you put everything, you just bundle up everything to them, they'll take it, they're always there, like they'll handle it. And I think also the world has evolved. And traditionally, as a man, an African man, you have to be that, the one with a spear, you're there, you're trying to conquer the world and trying to conquer the enemies. But that's a different facet. You also need to have that in you in today's world. But how it is now, sort of tuned down a bit. You're now appreciating different areas of how you are. To sum it up, I think a man has to, because even in the traditional times, or even in when the Stone Age, men still had emotions. They still had emotions, because emotion is a feeling that is inside. So if you probably go see a lion, you're afraid. That's an emotion. But since you don't want to tell the community that you're afraid, you come back and say that, hey, I fought this giant, I conquered, I am this man. And those are the men who are looked up to. But there are also men who are I wouldn't pick the word weak, but they are strong in their own sense. They're not physically strong, but mentally they're strong. Or what values that they carry? It's values that are deep founded, So I think with that question, it's more about having your toes in different areas. Because now, in this day and age, we're having men who are emotional. I've cried. And it's proper to say that it's good to cry, because you're expressing an emotion of what you feel, So yeah, I think from what I see, or how I stand, it's that you're in different, you have to have your feet in different areas, be the emotional, but still be the tough cookie if you want to, but also appreciate that all the areas bring together the person that you are. However much, you cannot disengage one area of the wheel and say, this one I don't want to drive. It all takes the wheel to the vehicle to one destination. So having that all together sums up a man, I'd say. Yeah. Your take?
I think you touched on very interesting dimensions of emotions, and I think it's okay, as you've alluded, to have a man have a range of emotions. My view actually is that men do have emotions, but they have difficulty articulating those emotions, or identifying those emotions. Yeah. The other problem could be that there is some aspect of maybe a lesser awareness of the self, or even the failure to acknowledge that, hey, I have had this difficulty and this is what I'm feeling. So putting those feelings into certain, the appropriate labels and recognizing them and acknowledging them as part of being human. I think that should be a normal human way of expressing what's happening on the inside. Yeah. And I think increasingly when we talk about being healthy as a man, I think it's important to acknowledge that health also covers emotional well-being, and some of the things we talk about, like mental health and other things like that, they are all interconnected. I think we can't bury feelings and just lock them and throw the key away and hope that things will work out. I think we need to be aware and raise awareness and normalize in community and society that it's okay to express yourself emotionally at certain points, and appropriately, of course. But yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah, that's a good one. What's your take, Jones?
That's a very good question on emotions, and I would think we'd agree that being a man equates to being human beings, and since we're not robots, we do have emotions. So we are meant to express our emotions at all times. And my perception of emotions in this would probably be, do I feel like waking up? Do I feel like going to work today? Do I feel like owing to the promise I gave a friend? And those are emotions that everyone feels, and the question is, as Kaloki said, how are we able to express them? And the couple of ladies who I look up to, who I would think would speak well because they have sons, and I think over the years of taking care of their sons, they have been able to study men, them being men. So one of them was saying we need to build our capacity because our emotions are a sign of telling us certain things, but we don't necessarily need to follow through certain things, such as if I don't want to go to work. If you don't go to work, you don't get paid. You don't get paid, you don't have money. So you need to be able to know how to express your emotions. Am I going to follow through this one or not? Am I going to suppress this one? And also the other thing, I think this stems from the African heritage about crying or not crying. Sometimes it's good to cry. Sometimes I would say probably don't cry for the whole day. So know where, set your boundaries on how to express your emotions and move on accordingly. That's my take.
And I'll probably add there, when we talk about crying, not crying the whole day, I think it's important to have some emotional intelligence as well, so that you're a man, and obviously there are some responsibilities and things that need to be taken care of. So it's good to be aware of your emotions as indicators.
Yep.
But they're not going to be the dictators of the actions that you take. Yeah. Because then that can be a problem.
That's a good question. Funny thing, I've since the age of 13, I've grown up in a household of women. So that's my mom and 4 sisters. And I have had a very big appreciation of women, and for me they take a special place in terms of my mom had to take the role of both father and mom at the same time. So my view would be respecting them and respecting their own train of thoughts, acknowledging that they also have goals and aspirations and things that they want to follow through. And there's a lady who was sharing with other ladies that from a man's perspective, they should look for somebody who's able to complement their dreams and vision and help them through to achieve them. Not somebody who comes in your life to make you compromise your dream and vision and run away. So for me, it would be to empower probably the woman and probably try and achieve a common purpose. Okay, so Kaloki, what do you think about women?
I have a lot of thoughts, but what am I willing to share?
Should be one thought.
What am I willing to share? I obviously being married and having a mother in my life, and cousins, sisters, in-law, and friends, I think they are very precious. And in terms of the relationship, my take is that I was brought up to learn to respect women and to honor them, and to make sure that the interaction, I treat them with some respect and purity. And in terms of emotions, I have learned to acknowledge that sometimes they would have a certain range of emotions, and I don't have to understand them, but I just need to acknowledge them. And sometimes it could be some other things that maybe are not tangible or easily realized from the male standpoint. For example, intuition, that sixth sense. And I'll go somewhere with my wife, and she'll say, "Did you sense that?" I'm like, "No, I didn't sense anything." and those are some strengths. If so I'm learning to work with that and just tap into that as well, and seek their input in some areas that I wouldn't normally be, aware as a guy.
So that's kind of how I take it. But if I quickly maybe switch towards that relationship with men, I would say it's more like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
And for the older men in my life, I would say probably it's like they are like my dad in a sense.
Yeah.
And that respect, and there's unspoken rules about men to man engagement, all that, which is kind of interesting, and how men relate. I have three sons personally, so I see that the way those relationships evolve, and especially in terms of now this topic of emotions and understanding that and being there to see, but also it evolves as they grow older. So yeah, what do you think, Marlon?
So with women, I think same. What John said, it's more similar to what my sort of life. I've grown up with women around, mom, sister, and it's been like that. In my household, or in our household, I'd say with men are a smaller population than women. It's the other way around. So if men, it's men versus women. But as men, good thing. It's an appreciation of how we function with the women, because there has to be even as an uncle. How does an auntie function? Because you might be an auntie, but you're not married. Like my aunties are different from my uncles. So that relationship has to come to a perfect synergy. And I think my relationship with women, I'd say it's building that emotional intelligence, or building that EQ. Probably we'll never get there as men. We try. Maybe Kaloki would share more on that. But I think we try. I think it's good that men also try to understand the women that we have in our lives, because they shape how we are as men, and also how we relate with each other. Because in the Garden of Eden, our classic example, there was a man and a woman, so they had to function together.
Yeah.
And though Adam knew this was the wife, later on generations, they had to function as a brother and a sister, because you could be brothers and sisters who are marrying each other. So I think relationship with women, it's very key to build up also a man, because you have that emotional side, and understand emotions and how you relate to emotions. For me personally, women have really shaped how I think and how I view life in a different way. Because from my mom, she had to switch on the mom and dad side. I don't know if men, I'm not sitting as a man who has a kid, but how does that relate for men? Because for us, it's sort of different. Like men can, and women have to sit in and be the mothers. So them, it's different. So that relationship with women, there are different beings. Men are different beings, women are different beings. But it's creating that synergy and how we work together. You know, it's beautiful that God created a man and a woman. His responsibilities are clear cut. The woman is clear cut. And we all meet in the middle, produce, make babies, and fill the world. So, to sum it up, I think women are very pivotal in how we view things. I think for all the men out there, that's why you're born with a mom and a dad, so that you have identity. You get to understand your dad and your mom. For those people who had a mom growing up, and that's also something. It's you understand women, and you can see that what they're doing and how they're going through life. It gives you some level of strength. Like, I think for me seeing my mom raising up 3 kids was just mind-blowing. As in, she's just there raising 3 kids and she has to provide. I don't know. But it's an interesting thing.
Yes. And one of my mentors says you raise kids, especially male children, boys, to become men. men of steel and velvet. and I think I grew up with mom and dad, and for me, I think my father was the steel. He provided the steel, structure. And if you grew up in a household, I had two brothers, so you understand having a stiff vertebra is an expectation from the old man, the dad, and that was good. And my mom was the calm in the storm. Okay, so she'll provide that velvet, that emotional side, a balanced, kind of situation, I'd say. But also, I think maybe if somebody like I didn't grew up with sisters. You guys had sisters, so you're lucky in that way. But if you're like me and you missed out on the sisterhood boat, there are good books to invest in and try to study, how a woman thinks, and you can read something. Maybe I like to read something like his needs, her needs, because then they would have different needs from men, right? Or love languages, I don't know, something.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing.
To help you navigate. I think a man should first seek to improve his financial knowledge. And I know it's your own money, but if you don't know what to do with it or how you're handling it, it takes off. It just disappears, right? So I'll probably say handling finances. Now, it depends on which stage of life you're in, but generally the principles should be the same. I'd say that. If you're single, mostly maybe it's just you and whatever you make, you budget for, you live on a budget. Probably your needs are a little bit less. If you're married, you have a significant other or a fiance, someone that that topic, finances, has already reached the table, then it's a little bit of a different ballgame, right? So I would expect, maybe that, like for me, that discussion happens in a healthy and honest environment. It's one of those hot topics, to be honest, and I think that as men, we should aim to learn as much about finances, personal finances, and what the wider concept, how to handle money and the different styles, saving, spending, investing. But I think a firm grip, even when you're single and young, and just knowing how it works and study, just grab a few books, maybe attend a few seminars if you have to. It's like this. If you buy a car and you don't know how to drive, it could be a good car, but you could smash it just the next turn, and that's not helpful. So I think handling finances, you don't have to be like a specialist finance, controller or that kind of person, but you can still have sound principles down and be able to just take care of what needs to be taken care of in terms of your responsibility and communication and giving, helping others, and just being a good steward of that aspect of a resource. Yeah, but I'll probably add that maybe while money is important and handling money is important, I'll still say maybe time is also money. So having some respect around time. I know from a cultural standpoint, sometimes I think maybe time is elastic and it expands. I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but yeah, something to maybe be aware of, because it's not replaceable. Every minute, gone, doesn't come back again. So yeah, that's probably my take. Do you want to add something?
That's a very as you said, use the word hot topic, because it is. I think the core of all this, it's probably, I'd say, stewardship. Because if you have a good relationship with your money, it translates to every facet in your life. And we all, being young, you experience some input, or you have some amounts coming in. You're like, all right, you know what? it's time. That car that I've always wanted, for me, I've always wanted a BMW. And be sure, you guy, my guy. So for me, it was for me, it's more about how, because your relationship with money is also tied down to your dreams. Because, like, let's say I was back home or wherever I am, like, my dreams are just to own that car. Trust you me, every day I get up, I'll be wanting that car. I'll be wanting that car. And if your dream is to get that house, trust you me, you wake up every day and go and hustle and grind and get that car or that house. But yeah, it comes to the realization of stewardship now, because it boils down to how you handle your money. Because if your goal is to have certain car, but we are here, we are like, you know what, I've been wanting this, for me, BMW, and then I'm like, that goal is too far away. Let me do something with this cash or do something. Probably it's a priority of goals, but how you spend your cash also determines what you do. Because if, like, let's say, it's good having fun, enjoying having that good quality time with friends. We all have ways of doing that. I could go for a drink, you could go for a movie, we could go bowling, we could socialize over bowling. But you have to, for me, it's always monitor that sense of where you spend, because where you tap your cash is where also your priorities are. Because if you find yourself spending 1,000 on food and 200 on rent, well, I'm not. It shows where your priorities are. I'm not saying that it's bad to eat, but also, yeah, main center stage is money is a very hot topic, and we really need to have those conversations. Finding people who have better relationships, because I think even in the Bible, I think there was that parable where somebody was given 5, 3, and one went to. The one who was given one went and dug it and buried it. So, and also, personally, it can come from how you have, what has been invested in you. Because sometimes when you live in a household where probably you don't see a budget, you'll never work with a budget. You'll never work with a budget. Where does a budget come in? What is a budget? What is a budget? As in, you just see dad there, or mom, money comes in. Where do we go? You know, payday. You know, back in Kenya, you knew payday is roughly at the end of the month. So you know, this time is when we are going, and then there's the storm that hits after that. But yeah, as in, I think it's the values of the people that also you associate with, or also the knowledge that you gain because there are books out there, and there are people who, I'd say, for me, even with that parable, I was like, maybe that one guy saw someone losing and was like, or maybe his previous relationship was like, he lost the 5. Now he was given 2. He was like, you know what? These 2, I'll keep it. Just that's me. Play safe. So he decided to play safe. And probably he was bashed. Yeah. But that knowing how he related with his money was good, because maybe in the later date now, maybe with his given 5, he'll add it now to 100. But yeah, it's a very good topic, money.
Yeah, it's interesting you talked about feeding the neck down. One of my mentors talks about, where you're investing, if you're earning, $100, are you investing 100 neck down? Something neck up. and we've heard that a man, as a man thinketh, so it comes. Yeah, so it'll really be interesting to see
over time, as we lean on compounding interest, that something neck up is coming through for the investment side. Jones, what are your thoughts?
Probably to start off is to complement key statements that both Kaloki and Marlon have said, and starting from Kaloki, talking about money and time. There's a very good reference I find in a movie that Justin Timberlake did called In Time. Amazing movie. I would highly recommend watching that. It will give you a perspective on money and time, and also what Marlon has talked about, having where you're spending 1,000 on food, 200 on rent. Yeah, so I think one of my mentors also shared that we vote with our dollar. We vote who wins with our dollar. So are you going to vote for the big companies to win, or are you going to vote the dollar or yourself to win? And for me, relationship with finances is quite interesting. It's an area I've been studying quite a while. And one thing I personally believe is the inequality in terms of accurate information in finances. Majority of the haves have a particular knowledge that the haves don't have.
True.
And that's the major difference, I believe. And yeah, I think finances is an interesting topic. It's very doable, and again, it depends on the goal you have in life, what your priorities are. That will set the pace on how aggressively are you willing to work a particular job. That will set the boundaries of what job you want, the minimum income you want from a particular job. It will set the pace of how aggressively you save, how you invest. And it's just having that goal. Who do you want to become at this particular time and age? Is there anyone who has achieved that? Am I able to look into what they have done and duplicate the activities and actualize and bring to fruition the goal that you've always wanted? So the relationship with finances would, I would say it would be personal. It depends on what you want and the time frame you want to achieve it.
Talking about time frame, what do you think about delaying gratification? Especially, you mentioned about Marlon. You mentioned about a BMW.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? You'd say we talked about emotions, and now I know wanting something and wanting, say, a car, but how does it fit as a man, having that for you? Having that. That's a desire, object of my desire. I have the finances in place. I could buy it tomorrow morning, but how do we get to decide should I delay it for another half a year so that I can reprioritize or delay the gratification, something like this? Maybe something you can mention something about. Yeah.
I'll touch on that.